Good morning, everybody. Hey now! Emergency alert. Financial economic collapse incoming. The gold standard's been warning you for years. And now we've had an Iran strike as world war tensions tighten with Israel and the United States bombing Iran and taking out the superior leader because of worldwide financial chaos. And that always leads to world war. And this is the preliminary striking and stoking, moving along from the first phase of the Ukraine and the Russia saga from a couple of years ago. Good morning, everybody. March the 2nd, 2026. The alarm bells have been sounded by the gold standard once again as the war tension is ramping up, as global economic and financials are collapsing, as the masses around the world, whether you're in Europe, the United States, Mexico, Canada, Cuba, Venezuela, Great Britain, United Kingdom, wherever you're at, the citizens of this planet and the standard of living has been so depleted, so rapidly, so fast now, in an accelerating fashion, they can no longer keep the masses happy. They can no longer keep the masses quiet. And there's too many people now as working slaves, and the populations are done with it. And now we're going to the phase just like we did back in the late 1920s, right? We're going to war. War's coming home. War's coming to you. War's coming to me. The great financial collapse is starting, and we're going to go into a 1928 style. And I think it's going to happen in 2028. But this is the year, like we've been saying, to take profits, because major, major pain, major war, and financial crises is coming. The debt bubble and the everything bubble will pop. And the first thing you notice, which Trump started, was the tariffs. Whenever there's financial problems, you always start with tariffs. Then the tariffs progress to war, real war, boots on the ground war, bombings. Look at what the United States has done. They've arrested the Venezuela guy. Israel and the United States just killed the Iran supreme leader. It's not a coincidence. It's not an accident. It's all orchestrated, in my own personal opinion. And this is what the gold standard's talking about. Everything that's going on is all orchestrated, pre-planned to take place. And they're doing it now because, one, you have Epstein files out. Two, there's a lot of people around the world in high political powers on there, like President Trump, like former President Biden, like former President Clinton, like former President Obama, right? And the list goes on and on and on. Hollywood act, Tom Hanks, right? Michael Jordan, you sports athletes, comedians, you name them, they're on them if they're big-time players making all this money, right? They are on the list. The whole food thing is coming unglued, where all of a sudden, like that, you get one guy in the government to say, hey, maybe these chemicals in the food are bad. And all of a sudden, all these conspiracy theorists over the last 25, 30 years saying that they're stripping the nutrients out of your food. They're putting in artificial chemicals in replace of it. For one, to put the fake nutrients in from the real nutrients they stripped. And most importantly, too, to preserve shelf life, right? To make a product that used to be very nutritious that would last a week. Now it'll last 6 months, right? All the dyes. You're trying to buy bread and it's got 38 ingredients. Bread should have about 4 ingredients, right? They hid all this from you. They lied to you. And then they made billions of dollars a year profit, quadrillions of dollars a year off your health declining over the last 35 years. Has nobody looked back in the 70s and 60s and 50s and 40s and even 80s People were skinny and healthy when you see all the pictures of them on the beach in public. And then all of a sudden, in the 90s and 2000s and 10s and now, everybody's fat and obese and unhealthy. It's because the food they're serving you is a drug. It's more addicting than crack cocaine or heroin, or as Stewie Griffin said, heroin, right? It's more addicting than that. And the dirty and the facetious problem with it is people don't see food as a drug, a toxic drug, because it looks like food to them when it's not. Food is an apple. Food is steak, chicken, poultry, beef, vegetables, fruit, shit that grows from the ground, shit that eats shit that's on the ground, right? Not these packages of cereal or bars or chips or cakes, all these colorful items on the shelf that have 86 chemicals in one little Hostess cake or whatever the fake synthetic bioengineered garbage is, right? And all that, the Great Awakening is happening. Putting that in with the financial crunch that everybody's in, worse than any time in history, especially here in Canada. It's 10 times worse than the US because I'm here working right now. They need the war now, and we're going to war. And 30 years ago, Joe Skousen said, and his old man before him said World War III, people that were predicting it in the 80s or 90s or 2000s, they were all going to be wrong. And these people predicted this back in the 70s and 80s, right? Even during the Cuban Missile, all that shit. They said it couldn't happen until around 2030. And that was 40 years ago. Why? Because China and the great powers on the other side didn't have a navy, right? They didn't have ships. China has been building ships for 30 years, and they're pretty much there now. And it's all coming together. And what I'm trying to tell you is you need to be prepared. And one thing that you need to understand about Bitcoin or crypto, and that's what that rant was at the beginning, because I wanted to make sure everybody heard it, is you should be seeing crypto pump this morning after major war fears, bombings, killing of a superior leader in a major country, closing of a strait that is a strategic shipping route for 20% of the oil reserve around the world to ship it. Bitcoin specifically, or crypto, if it was a hedge, a safe haven, as it was portrayed to be, because you don't want to be in dollars, this fucking thing should have pumped. It did not. It continues to go down, right? Safe havens go up. The dollar up 0.5% because it's a safe haven. Gold, 3%. Silver, 2%, right? Safe havens, they go up. Oil, obviously, is going to skyrocket 6%, right? Platinum platinum is up. No, platinum is even on the day. Where's platinum? Yeah, it's even. Palladium, it is even. But you can see the major players that are real true hedges and against the dollar or safe havens or stores of value like gold, right? They go up in times of crises. Look at Bitcoin. It's down 50% almost from the high. It used to sit at 128,000. It's with all this war tension, all this inflation, all this dollar devaluation, it's down 50%. And with the war news, it went down 2% yesterday on the news. It's not a safe haven. It's not going to be a currency. Those were all lies. Now they've moved to where they want regulation because they want institutions to buy it and they need regulatory clarity to do that. That used to be the exact opposite of what the touting of crypto and Bitcoin was. They're just lying to you. In real times of crises and an economic collapse, right? You're going to want a real asset like gold, silver, oil, copper. You're going to want real commodities that have real use cases that are needed, right? Those are the things that will hold your value, not crypto. The gold standard's here to lay it out, the truth for you, the truth. Somebody asked about H-bar yesterday and my thoughts. Join Jabroni Killers. You'll get insight unlike any other cryptocurrency channel with real news, real insight, things that actually matter and make a difference in your life that you need to know. I am not a financial advisor. These are only my own personal opinions and what I think and actually do in the market, right? And I sift out all the nonsense and bullshit. $3.99 a month, video description and or pinned comment on March the 2nd, 2026. Some 6:55 a.m. Well, we're actually we're off to a great start in the morning. This is very important. $3.99 a month. I noticed several new members of Jabroni Killer since I've been doing these lives every day. We're going to start incorporating a nightly wrap-up show every night, breaking down the news that happened during the day, right? As soon as we get 100 members of Jabroni Killers, we're going to build an in-house studio to have a live gold standard news network and TV network, right? We're going to build and expand out for you. These are going to be very interesting times. No other crypto channel is going to give you the insight, tell you the truth about the coins that you want to hear good things about. To reinforce your own beliefs. We're going to expand your beliefs. We're going to expand your horizon. We're going to expand your knowledge on what's actually fucking going on out here in the real world, right? And we're giving it to you for free. We're not asking you to go behind a paid wall. We're asking you to support the page for $3.99 a month it starts at. And all this valuable information is free. We don't put behind paid walls. We give this valuable information to you. Just become members of Jabroni Killers, right? Because the H bar, it's garbage. I hate to break it to you. You guys used to call it the ISO 2026, 2028, the Internet of Things, the ISO tokens of this, all this nonsense and horseshit that the YouTube facilitating heisters were paid to fleece and push on you, right? To get you to fear of missing out on something that was 5 years away, which is now here, and that didn't happen. The ISO was garbage. It was all a sales tactic, a marketing. And I've been telling you this the whole time, and that's why my channel only has 2,000 followers, and that's fine. That's fine. I'm here to help you become asset millionaires the way I am becoming an asset millionaire, and it's not by being fleeced by these garbage tokens and H-bar. I have a high suspicion that it's garbage. I don't have any proof yet, but I have a high suspicion because, God, I believe all of these are just massive pump and dumps, right? And I believe if you put your money in it and say 10 years later, 20 years later, on 99% of these coins or more, you're going to be down massive percentage from whenever you bought it, if you hold it for that long. Now, I call them pump and dumps because you can make a mass amount of money if you buy them for a very short time, and you understand this, a very short time, if you understand this, right? Where are the fucking drawing tools? A very short time. Like if you bought it here and understood to sell there or anywhere along that ride because you knew it was going to do this, you can make a quick return very quickly, like another opportunity. But they're very small windows and you have to be quick on the trigger, right? And you got to be sharp and you have very little margin for error. But I believe that's what H-bar is because look, if you bought it when it came out in 2022, you're 4 years later almost, and you're getting hammered, right? Hammered. Even if you did due diligence and bought the bottoms, but you never sold the tops, you're still getting hammered, and you're barely up if you're lucky, right? Even if you time the buys beautifully. So I think H-bar is garbage, right? I hate to break it to you. It's going to, I think it was a Jabroni Killer member. If it wasn't, you need to become members of Jabroni Killers. There's only a few coins that if you're going to hold, you hold. But most of these are just garbage. There's 30, 40, 100,000. I remember when the NFT was going nuts. I told you they were garbage. And people unsubscribed by the hundreds at the time because I said they were garbage. And where are they at now? They're garbage. I could have screenshot an NFT, and I had the same pile of shit that you paid 10 grand for. But you showed it on the internet, so I screenshotted it. Now I owned it too. Whoop-de-fucking-do. And I printed it out, and everybody owned it. I didn't get it, and most of you, 99% of you, got fleeced, shysted, and molested the whole way through that ordeal. And I'm trying to keep you from doing that again. And that's the cold, hard fucking truth that the gold standard gives you, that no other fucking crypto channel will give you. They refuse to give you the fucking truth. But I'm here to give you the fucking truth, and we don't give a shit about clicks, likes, followers, we're here to spill the truth. And the cold, hard fucking truth is we have a major crises coming. We are living in the 1920s. Just study 1919 to 1930 and go to 1926. That's where you're at in 2026. 100 years later, you're reliving the past. Not exactly, but very close, right? And it's going to get even more interesting. And if we end this with the news and we go look at oil prices, news, oil jump, stock skid, dollar rallies as conflict grips the Middle East. Brent up sharply, S&P futures slide, dollar jumps. Notice, risk down, stocks down, dollar up, gold up, silver up, oil up, commodities up, crypto down. Risky stuff down, hedges and stores of value, safe havens, commodities up. That should tell you something, right? You've been lied to. Dollar jumps on euro. Treasury yields rise from near 11-month low. Why? Because they're rushing the safety, right? Oil prices surge. The dollar gained and shares slide on Monday as the Iran conflict widened in the Middle East and looked set to last for weeks. And that's the critical thing with oil. If this ramps up and continues, oil is going to skyrocket. But if this settles down over the next 7 to 14 days, oil will settle back down. But oil got up to 72.05, up 2%. Gold went up to 53.89 an ounce, nearing an all-time high. Israel launched new airstrikes targeting Iran and extended its military campaign to include attacks on Iran-backed Hezbollah militant in Lebanon. Oh, my country. See, I'm part Lebanese, so that hurts me every time America and fucking Israel and the Jewish nation bombs my Lebanon. I know they have problems, but that is where my great-grandparents are from, right? So that it's always a painful thing. I don't agree with bombing anybody, but especially when they're bombing my people, right? I mean, not the people they're bombing. Hopefully, aren't my family, but hey, it's where my great grandfather's from, and still distant relatives live there, so it is my homeland partly. Israel, Gulf of State, and the British Air Base in faraway Cyprus. U.S. President Trump signaled the U.S.-Israel military assault on Iranian target could last for weeks. Oil and gas facilities were forced to shut down across the Middle East. Saudi Arabia shut its biggest domestic oil refinery on Monday after a drone strike. Eyes are on the Straits of Hormuz, through which around a fifth of the world's seaborne oil trade flows and 20% of its liquefied natural gas. While the vital waterway has not yet been blocked, marine tracking sites showed tankers piling up on either side of the strait, worrying of attack or maybe unable to get insurance for the voyage. For investors, the critical question, how long and how bad this will get. Historically, markets have mostly shrugged off isolated conflicts in the Middle East only when the conflict has had potential to draw in entire regions have markets really moved. For now, the markets will try to assess what's going on, as the gold standard said. Banks were in the force given worries about impacts of economic growth. Europe, SX 7P down 3%. Travel shares tumbling. Tech stocks also fell in Europe and Asia. Energy stocks, gangers, hover 4% in Europe. At one point, a new record high in SXEP, Europe defense stock. Also gained 1.3 in the Middle East, UAI. And Kuwait temporarily closed their stock market, citing exponential circumstances. Chinese blue chips were a rare gainer, up 0.04% through the country. Does not give much of its seaborne oil imports out of the Middle East. The dollar is back. The dollar rose and rallied as is to be expected. The euro is down about 0.7%. Meanwhile, the dollar climbed 0.5% on the Japanese yen and 0.3% on the Swiss franc to 157 yen and 0.7733 francs, respectively. The dollar correlation to risk is back, said Jordan Rochester, right? Which is to be expected after nearly a year post-Liberation Day, FX correction being junk and macro framework out of window. The new geopolitical crisis has snapped us back to normal, he said on April 2nd last year when Trump announced the tariffs. So that's what's going on here. We have major problems. Stick with the gold standard. I have to let you go. This is the only crypto station that gives you the news, the truth that you need. Peace and love. Jay.